Hello and welcome to PSY-POD, the podcast about nothing. And fittingly enough, today is the spooky episode. Woo! And speaking of nothing, we'll be talking about things which lurk and creep at night. Because this is the Halloween special episode. And we talk about local things. And today we'll talk about local urban legends. And with that, who do we have here joining us today? Please say hello to our local and international fans. Who are you? What are you doing here? What do you do? Look here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Father Shawn, otherwise known as Dr. Shawn. I am a professor of anthropology at Royal Thimphu College. I've been in this country long enough to collect some unusual tales.
Ooh, and we'll get into that soon enough. All right, with that being said, PSY-POD starts now. PSY-POD. Okay, before we start, you must be wondering, why do I look like I'm about to read English news at 9 p.m? Well, that's beside the point. I have a question for you instead. Are you abroad? Have you studied abroad, back to Bhutan and wanting to go abroad again? Have you been in Bhutan your whole life and now considering to study abroad? Do you live alone? Do you have an open mind? If all these questions are going through your head, then this episode is sponsored by Global Reach, which might be able to answer them. Global Reach is Bhutan's first and oldest education consultancy firm. Yes, they've been doing it since 2004, the year probably most of you were not even born. You were probably in your past life as a goat grazing the fields of Laya. Speaking of goat, Global Reach is the goat of sending Bhutanese kids to study abroad. Global Reach has certified counselors which will help you with the entire process, which means they are not just about putting you in an airplane and the see ya method. They'll help you with more things such as bank account setup, health insurance, and also included the air ticketing. And with connections with over 40 universities in Australia, your education opportunities are endless. And not only in Australia, they'll also help you connect with places in New Zealand, Canada, and even the US, America. So if you have dreams of studying abroad, just like the Honda guy dreams of picking up a foreigner, then Global Reach just might be your best wingman. Yes. Global Reach, a trusted name, a trusted open mind. Now, back to the episode. All right, before we begin, we got to give a special shout out to DomSip for helping supporting this podcast directly. Thank you to DomSip. Also to our sponsor Global Reach. If you have plans or ambitions of studying abroad, you can link with them. You just scan the QR code above or visit their websites and you can check their stuff out if you want to live abroad. Okay, and also to our lovely members, our podheads. If you look up, they're floating in our head right now, Dr. Shawn. They're floating. They're all floating. Yeah. That's why we have this background of, so they could float. And today, fittingly enough, this is a good episode for them to float. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for supporting this podcast. If you want to be a member, a podhead, you can do so by checking the link in the description or by pressing the join button. Unfortunately, this only applies to the ghosts which live outside of Bhutan because of geographic locked stuff. Anyway, it's too hard to explain. Also, a shout out to our podhead pro, Doti and Pema Samdrup. Thank you for being the the aristocrat of this podcast by being the second tier of our podcast. You guys get a lovely shout out. If you want to upgrade, again, links in the description. Thank you for supporting. We appreciate you and we'll mention you until you stop paying. But yes. Okay, before we begin, this is a little spooky themed episode and actually Shawn is not a stranger to this podcast. He was here during our humble beginnings when we had just one microphone. But actually, the studio looked a little better actually then.
Yeah, it did actually.
It's kind of a downgrade. But then hardware-wise, slight upgrade.
Yeah.
And that time, Dr. Shawn was just a doctor, but now he's a father. But not of the kind which procreates, but the kind that takes the demons out of your soul. And we'll talk about that. Okay, where do we start? But this is, thank you, Shawn, for coming back.
Oh, you're welcome.
Before we start back, for the fans who did watch your episode prior to the humble beginnings, what has transpired between now and then? I think that time you only wanted to stay in Bhutan for a year or two, but now it's been a while.
I was on a 3-year contract, and then COVID happened. The episode was during COVID or before?
I think
COVID?
It was during COVID.
During COVID, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And so, in which foreigners like me, if you didn't get out in time, you were stuck here. But that was okay. Bhutan was a pretty good place to be during COVID, actually. So then I've stayed at RTC for quite some time. I've been here almost 6.5 years.
Oh, God. Damn, it's been a while.
I went from a humble senior lecturer now to an associate professor. And in the meantime, I've been doing research. I started off doing a particular kind of research. And then I've shifted into something that's kind of a core passion for me, which is folklore, urban legends, urban mythology.
Which is good segue for us today. So I'm also a big fan of true crime and also kind of a horror-themed kind of, content. I love listening to like kind of morbid podcasts, horror movies, the body horror kind of stuff and stuff like that. And our audience also... Like we did one episode where we talked about true crime. It was about a local, con woman who kind of conned her way to almost like to the very top in Bhutan. So we did an episode, and that was like a regular random episode where we got a good viewership. So because of that, and because today is Halloween, we are going to talk about some great spooky stories, and Dr. Shawn is I thought about him because he's the right person. We talked about this actually last year when we went randomly, I think probably drinking, and he said, I want to start a podcast about urban legends. So where do we begin today?
Yeah, so my idea was to start a podcast called Himalayan Horror. Because this stuff is popular on YouTube and Spotify and all that stuff. And it's largely American or British. Certain niche ones, like there's a Dutch one, which is a true crime thing. That's actually pretty cool. But except like in Hindi, there really aren't any channels that deal with this region of the world, like covering allegedly true tales. And so I thought about it, and I might do it. The only thing is, like, to do the whole YouTube thing, like an upload a week, at least 20 minutes plus a week. It seems like it takes over their lives.
Kind of, yeah. It's taken over my life. There's room. Like you can work probably, let's say, if you're doing it all yourself, you can do it in about 1 or 2 days, but it's going to be hectic. And then you have time to do other things. But if you have a team, which fortunately I have a few friends which are helping, then it's kind of manageable. But it's mainly, consistency. You have to do the same thing over a long period of time. But today could be the, episode 0 of Himalayan horror.
It could be.
Yeah, so we can see how it goes from there. And then you can always do the simple way, like how I started this podcast initially was just with the audio format. So you can just invest in a good microphone, have a conversation with somebody about whatever you want to talk about, and just upload the audio files. But that's not the story. Anyways, where do we start?
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I should start with a local story, a local urban legend that probably many of the listeners have heard, or at least various versions of. It's known colloquially as the chicken-legged woman of Taba.
Okay.
Now, the very first time I heard this story, it was set in Paro, not Taba, but the origin story is Taba. So, all right.
Okay.
One night, a taxi driver is working late, and he's thinks it's about time I should head home, and he's driving through Taba on a lonely road, and this is back in the time 10 years ago where Taba was pretty remote, like in terms of Thimphu.
10 years ago?
Yeah.
10 years ago was okay, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, but it's about 10 years ago. But I still remember going through that area myself.
But then, I think the road wasn't really properly made.
Yeah, that's it.
So it was quite like people were like, we got to go to Taba. The road.
So there he was driving along, thinking, I'll just go home. But he sees this woman in white, a beautiful young woman in a white dress, farming a ride.
All right.
And of course, he stops one last fare. Why not? And she gets in, and he's struck by her beauty.
Okay.
And, she's drive to wherever they're going. And they start having a pleasant conversation. Not only is she very pretty, she's very charming. And he's a married man.
Okay, wow, more backstory.
He can't help it because she's so beautiful.
Okay.
That he's thinking, I should try and chat her up.
Okay.
And that seems to be going well. And then he's studying her form, so down her beautiful face and down her shapely neck and her body, all the way down.
So she's sitting in the back seat?
In the front seat.
In the front seat, okay. So he's just looking.
Okay. And so he then traces his eyes to her legs. And that's when he realizes she has chicken legs.
Okay.
So in a horror, he slams on the brakes and he opens the door to run out. Just before he gets out, she curses him to die by the next morning.
Okay.
Right. And he's runs off. He finds a little hole in the wall bar, and he's just having 11,000 after 11,000, trying to calm himself.
Okay, so he ditches the car.
He ditches the car.
He starts running.
Yeah.
He finds a bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's drinking away for several hours, and his wife doesn't like him drinking, right? And so eventually he calms down. He thinks, I've got to go home. So he walks back slowly, slightly sobering up from the fear to his cabin. He sees the doors are open, the passenger and the driver's door, and there's no sign of the passenger anywhere. He thinks, oh, thank you.
Okay.
He gets in the car, he shuts the door, he drives home. His wife is really cross because he's basically drunk and he reeks of alcohol.
And he's home late.
And he says, no, it's not what you think. I didn't go out drinking, for pleasure. He tells her the story, and when he says that she cursed me to die by the morning, she becomes very sympathetic. And it's like, oh, we'll go to a shaman or a monk, and in the morning, and we'll see what we can do. And so he goes to sleep, and he never wakes up.
Okay.
Right.
That's kind of anticlimactic kind of horror story.
That's just how it is.
I saw chicken legs next day. I didn't wake up. End of horror story.
No, he died.
Okay, he died.
Yeah.
But okay.
Okay, now, so it's a famous story. I've heard
Yes.
versions of it.
I've heard this story as well.
Yeah. Have you heard any different versions than that?
Not really. It's always the premise of driving up a very spooky road. A woman in white asks for a lift, and then the versions kind of deteriorate.
Yeah. The first version I heard was from a student of mine when I was teaching history at RTC. We used to have a history program, and I got them to, as part of our history, investigate local urban legends.
Ooh.
And so they wrote this story, but set in Paro, and instead of a taxi driver, it's a truck driver.
Okay.
And I've also heard versions where instead of a taxi driver in Taba, it's a truck driver in Taba. It doesn't sound like it'd be fun to drive a big rig through Taba, but anyway. Now, after many years and hearing stories, multiple versions of this story of taxi drivers around here, I now know actually the origin of this story.
Oh, you know the origin of the
I do,
story.
yeah. But it might take all of the fun out of it for your listeners.
Okay, so we'll just put a spoiler tag right here. If you want to believe in this urban legend, we can skip to that point, or you can hear apparently the truth which Father Shawn has uncovered. So let's hear the.
So I was taking a taxi back to RTC, and as was my habit, as I was starting to seriously research this stuff, I would ask taxi drivers, especially late at night, do you know any ghost stories or any weird stories from 0 Point up to RTC? And they said, yeah, I know lots, but I'll tell you this one, it's not this region, right? And so he tells me the full chicken leg story, just as I told it to you. And at the end of it, he says, sir, do you believe that? Now, my policy is I don't comment whether something is true or not because I'm just collecting the stories. But if somebody asks me a direct question, I think it's polite, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm also brutally honest. So I sighed and I said, not a word. And then he sighed in relief and said, thank you, sir. He said something like, you're clever or you're a smart guy or whatever. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, this is a game that we play as taxi drivers. We, especially with chillips, we pick them up and we tell them a ghost story. They will often want to hear it, but we'll just tell them.
Oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
And then they'll ask them, what did you think about that? Or did you believe it? And, tourists who come here, it's like, oh, this is such a spiritual place and so magical. Of course, there's going to be ghosts, and
I liked how the fact that the gullible chillip is American.
Yeah, of course. Sorry. I know. So apologies to any Americans listening, but I did live in America for 3 years. So.
Okay.
But, and then that's it. They'll drop them off and they'll drive back to the taxi rank and say, I can't believe how stupid chillips are. And it's a joke. They just tell taller and taller tales.
Okay.
But this one has a foundation in truth.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, so it has a foundation.
It does.
Okay.
It does. It's not just a totally made up story.
Okay.
So there was a taxi driver who was driving late at night. He was a hardcore alcoholic, and he had a bad heart condition. And he was told, "Don't drink anymore," by the doctors. And his wife was very angry at his alcoholism and said, "Don't ever drink anymore." One night, he just goes and he has some drinks, and his cab driver friend says, "Yeah, you're screwed. You're in so much trouble." And he's smashed at this stage, and he's thinking, "I'll have to come up with an excuse for why I drunk." So he invents having picked up this chicken-legged woman.
Ah!
And he goes back to his wife, and he tells the story. This is exactly the same, right? Now, the one interesting thing that is true about it is he also said, "I'm going to die,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow." He did actually die.
Oh, he did. Okay, that can't be a coincidence.
Well, he had a bad heart and he was drinking very seriously when he was told not to drink.
So
So we could rationalize it.
Okay,
and say,
fine,
sure.
fine. Okay, continue the story.
On the other hand, you could say, why did it happen on that particular night? On the night he
Okay,
invents
but
a story
you're
about
saying the story was made up.
It was
But
made up.
How do we know that it was made up? Because this guy
Well,
came
of
to
course.
his wife.
Of course, the
told
taxi
story-
driver who told me the story is made up and told me this version of it could have been making that up, right?
Yes.
To have like a double bluff.
Ah, ooh.
So, of course, I went around and I researched it and I asked. And
Where do you even ask this? Again, more taxi drivers?
More taxi drivers is the best starting point, yeah. As well as also, I don't want to disclose all my sources.
Okay,
right?
fine, fair enough.
But yeah, short version of the story is I verified that it's not true.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
And you did, and then the little bit longer story is you asked the reliable sources.
Yes, and you ask lots and lots of sources. That's what you do as an anthropologist. You don't just take what one person tells you for granted. You have to verify that it's true.
Okay, fine, fair enough. But so you're telling me that this story which this man told his wife was not true, and he did coincidentally die. So how do we know that? You don't have to tell us like who told you what, but what did they tell you to convince yourself that saying that story was not true?
Well, I mean, the one thing is the reference to the game, which there is actually a phrase that they use for this. I'm not going to disclose that on this because I want to put it in a publication.
Okay.
So
I have to monetize this. Okay.
yeah, exactly. It's for my career. So there is a phrase, and I asked around, casually at first and then deliberately, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing we do," and they use the exact same wording, right? So that's important. If people are using the same word to describe a game, then it's a thing that actually exists.
Okay.
Rather than me telling them, do you call it this? Then they'll just say, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, also you anthropologically, you build up relationships of trust.
Yeah.
To the point where somebody then becomes like straight up honest with you.
Yeah.
So I don't want to bore it with a lot of this is what we do, but basically research helps us verify.
Yeah, because I also have my theory that this place apparently is Taba Hoka, right? It has to be Taba Hoka. So this is a Taba Hoka story. But here's my theory. I said if you want this story to have more like validity, I would say change location, not from Taba, maybe like this, like Bumthang, which is known to be a little bit of a spooky place, or maybe Paro, because in Paro there is this point in the road from the Thimphu to Paro airport where there's like a steep hill. It's next to Shaba. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's a steep hill, and it's like if you're not being, what's the word now? Alert, you can drive straight off the road because it's like a steep turning which goes down and then goes left. And then they apparently built a little chorten over there because there were a lot of accidents which happened in this area.
I've been past there. I know.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking. So I would actually ask people to like be more alert of that area rather than Taba, because Taba is just like an urban legend. It's like a spooky spot. But that place is known to have many accidents where people have died.
Right.
There's a chorten which kind of like trying to like.
Is this the place where the school bus went over the edge, or is that?
No, that's not the story. I also I also have like a what do you call? I have my version of that story. Maybe I can tell it to you. Then you can give me what you think, and then we can go there. But before we go there, that area actually, like I've given my name like for that area. Because people think about Taba Hoka, right? I call that place Shaba Hoka. There's a place called Shaba.
Shaba Hoka, okay,
And it's actually a legit
got a
place
nice
where
ring to
people
it,
have actually, have had accidents. And the stories, like, my mom told me a story, like, I don't know if there's any validity to it, but she said, like, once she met this aunt of hers who, like, went in that road, and they were following one car which crashed, and they went to help him. And then there was a guy who was in the ditch in a Bolero. And he was like, oh, like, what happened? Like, so you're in a crash, we'll help you. He said, don't help me right now. There's someone screaming over there. He's been asking for help. I think he's much in a worse situation than me. So when they went there, tried to figure out, there was nobody. And then they, like, eventually went back to the guy, went to the hospital, and then they said, like, he was, like, saying, like, no, go help him. Like, he was, like, adamant, convinced that there was someone else who needed more help. And then later on, he said that, like there was this guy who was like screaming for help, and I saw his cranium like squashed, and I don't know why, but I just like heard him ask for help. And later on, what they found out was like a week or a month prior, there was a similar person who died on that road, and an injury the way he described it, and then that was the spooky part for me. But now I'm not sure like anything, but that place actually has a chorten. So I always say like if this actually is spooky, there has to be a chorten over there. But that's my version of the actual spookier Hoka, which is in Shaba. You move from Taba to Shaba. That's a spookier spot.
Yeah.
But now we're going back to that bus.
The
story,
school bus,
right?
yeah.
So that my school bus story. Oh, school bus is it?
Yeah.
Okay, mine's just a regular bus. It's on Bumtang, right?
Yeah, it was like a class of kids who it's
You know one spooky story?
yeah.
We have had a friend called Ronald, which was on the podcast. You're talking about the school story in Paro, right? Shaba, which all the kids were cramped in a car and they fell off the road.
That one in Paro, I don't know the full details of, but the one near Bumtang is the one I'm actually thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. In the very high pass, you know,
I don't know
there's
this
the
story.
waterfall that sort of comes down.
I don't know the story.
Okay.
The story I'm referring to was around like maybe 10, 15 years ago. There was this school, kind of, I think it was like a bolero or something, and then a bunch of kids like...
It's always a bolero.
I don't know why. It's always a bolero. But they all crammed into the school and then they went off the road. And then I think like 2 kids survived only out of that. So that's the story.
So that's interesting. You say that's Paro, right?
Yeah.
So that's very similar to the story that I've heard when I was passing through Bumtang.
Okay.
And that's really typical of these stories, that the places get changed.
Okay.
So the way to verify it is, are there any news stories about a bus going over? Do people remember a bus definitely going over that spot, right?
Okay.
And then, you know, the story gets passed on to a different location.
Okay.
Do you know the cursed television story?
No.
Okay, this one's from Tshento.
Okay.
There's 2 versions of this story.
It's Paro for some reason. Okay, yeah.
Too many foreigners pass through there.
Okay,
that's why
all right.
it's trouble.
Okay, it's Cursed TV. The Cursed TV.
Yeah. So this is the way the story goes. I'll tell you the version I first heard, and then I'll tell you there's a slight variation. So the version I first heard or actually read about online in Tshento, when the television first comes into the country, one of the first TVs goes out to this village, which is kind of unusual, I suppose. But so they go there and they plug it in, and it just starts to turn itself on at weird times, right? And then the claims are when it was unplugged, it would also turn itself on, and the family is plagued by bad luck. They give it away or they sell it to another family. Same thing happens, and they give it away. And then the story has that it's up in a cave, and nobody ever goes up the mountain because now the curse has seeped out to the land, right? That's the version that I heard. But actually, that's not the classic version. The classic version is 3 people died because of the TV, and the spirit of one of the people who died is possessing the TV. Exactly.
Possessing the TV,
yeah.
okay.
So, and that also says it's not up in a cave, right? That it's in the house, or the abandoned house of the people who own the TV. There it stays. You can look at like Ghost Tours Bhutan. Like there are people who come here specifically for that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I don't know.
And so there's websites where they detail things. You know that famous folk story of the witch who pulls the guy's innards out and washes them in the river.
Yeah.
Right, so that's one of the places you can go to nearby there, right? Okay. An abandoned bridge that nobody crosses. That's kind of like a Devil's Bridge legend from Europe. But so, I mean, the easy thing is anybody from this village who can say, is the TV even there, or is it in a cave, or is it in the house?
Anyone from Paro Tshento, let us know in the comments if this spooky television is still around.
Yeah, if it even existed at all. But, I mean, that's kind of classic too, because it's like the first time a TV comes in here, it's this weird new technology, right? People have obviously heard about it, right? But it's strange, right? And it's a sign of modernity, which makes people anxious anyway. Now, you could say the power fluctuations coming on and off. It's not surprising in this country, to be honest.
Yeah.
And maybe the unplugged stories, it's just a fabrication, right? Maybe someone can say, no, it's true. Here's the evidence. So that's kind of typical. That story is always located in that village, though. But I think it's a pretty big difference of whether it's in an abandoned house or whether it was shifted up into a cave in the mountain.
Because do you know where the cave is, actually? An idea.
Well, supposedly you can go there, but everybody in the village tells you not to go there, of course.
Would you like to go there?
Absolutely, I'll go there, 100%.
Then I think you should get to the bottom of where this cave is.
Or the top.
Yeah, but then aren't you afraid of these things? Do you have any personal experience, supernatural experience?
I do, yeah.
Okay, let's hear about that.
So in the spirit of Halloween, I don't think I should give you the rational explanation for it.
Okay.
I should just tell the story.
Yeah.
Just let
Let
it stand,
people connect the dots.
Yeah. So many years ago, I used to work at a petrol station, and I would often, because I had a long time to drive back to get home, I would sometimes crash at a friend's place with a mattress on the floor kind of thing. Usually just for an hour or two, and then I'd have enough energy, I'd drive home. So that happens, and then my friend says, oh, Rob's in town. Robert was a good friend, everybody liked Robert, and he was training to be a police officer. That's his mistake, but that's life. And so I was like, all right, I'll stick around. And he shows up. We end up spending the entire day and night just hanging out. And then it's 2 or 3 in the morning, the next morning, and I've not had much sleep. And, there's mist blanketing the park that we're all hanging around. And I suddenly realize I've got to drive home because it would take me an hour to drive home. So I get in and I drive. I feel okay. And I stop on the highway to get a Mars bar and, some instant coffee or something. And I keep driving. And when you turn off the highway, there's still 20 minutes to go. And there's this little town in Queensland called Wamuran. And it's basically thick forest around this bend, and then you're just in the town. And so I'm driving to the bend. I see this guy, long blonde hair, blue jeans, backpack, and he's thumbing a ride. Now, 3 in the morning, I'm not picking you up. I don't care. It's not happening. So I go driving by. I see him as clearly as you, and then he's gone. Not a puff of smoke or not faded away or anything. Just blinked out, right? And so this was a little bit freaky, obviously. So I turned on the interior car light because I'd read a lot of phantom hitchhiker stories. And it is, if you don't pick them up, part of the story is they're sitting in the back of your car.
So you turn on your...
So yeah, and I'm adjusting the rear view mirror to get full view. I'm looking over my shoulder. I drive, he's not there. Right? I drive almost all the way the rest of the home with the interior light of the car on. And then finally I get to the turnoff towards where I was living, and I just thought, this is stupid. And I turned the light off, and I drove home while I went to bed. That's the end of the story. Now I do have an entirely rational explanation for that, but it would be unfair on Halloween
I think
give too many rational explanations.
I think you might have been sleep deprived, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's a big feature of it,
There's not many, hints to, bounce off of.
Yeah, I mean, okay, since you said the obvious one, then I may as well say the rest. So yeah, probably sleep deprived. There's a thing called prisoners' theatre. And it happens to people who are in solitary confinement. That's why they do it. But also those people who decide to yacht around the world on their own, they get weird hallucinations, like pirates attacking their ship kind of stuff, and nothing's going on. So it's quite dangerous.
So you think you're hallucinating?
I mean, we hallucinate all the time as humans, right? Yeah. So it's called, one version of it is entoptic vision. If you stare at that light, straight stare at it, now close your eyes, you see like floaters of light going in front of it. They're not real. It's an artifact of your eyes adjusting to the light. Right? It's hallucination. Where auditory hallucinations are common too. You ever been walking along and you think somebody's walking just on your peripheral vision, and you turn and there's no one there? That's very common.
That's very common.
And it's just your eyes playing around with light. So I mean, also the thing is, let's say it was a ghost, a phantom hitchhiker. Isn't it a bit weird that my very favorite kind of ghost is the first one I encounter? Seems like an odd coincidence,
Your mind could be, manifesting it yourself.
I'm a imaginative person, so anyway. But still, the counter argument to that, right? Just to play the devil's advocate to my rationality, is the classic phantom hitchhiker is the woman in white. And it comes from Resurrection Mary, another classic urban legend.
Yes.
Why did I see some surfer dude in jeans?
Right?
So you could counter it with that.
Or maybe he was in the corner of your eye, and you didn't look clearly. Maybe just took a step to the right or somewhere.
I had my eyes on him the whole time. That's a certainty.
That's a certainty.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling this story, basically.
All right. Wait, speaking of hallucinations, I'll share one of my personal experiences. So, a little backstory to this, in order for the story to make sense, is my sister once told me she read this book or read this podcast, listened to this podcast about sleep, and how when we sleep, basically in our brain, it just has a PowerPoint presentation and you're watching of all the memories of today. And it's basically like transferring files, like input and then transferring files, output. And that's basically what's happening during REM.
Okay.
During REM sleep, rapid eye movement. So basically, you're trying to like download the data for today.
Yeah.
Something like that. And if we get interrupted during REM, it's like when I'm transferring a file and I just take out the thumb drive. It takes a while to like get the thing, but then you're like kind of like fuzzy because you lost out on that what you call optimum sleep. So usually the person that she listened to was explaining it's like you're watching a theater and somebody play a PowerPoint presentation about what went out in the day for you to remember and transfer the data. So that's what she told me. And once I was sleeping and I don't know for what reason it was, but it was like a bad nap. And I'm a person who gets sleep paralysis very often. I get sleep paralysis like almost every other day. If I don't sleep,
I've never had it actually.
Never had it. Wow. So it's hard for you to like.
But I used to sleepwalk a lot.
I sleepwalk as well. So anyways, it's just a thing I deal with sleep paralysis. It's basically like I'm in a dream and I realize I'm sleeping. And now my body and my mind are separate. So I need to try to find that connection back. Yeah. So that's another story. Basically, I woke up from a sleep paralysis like an episode. And then when what I realized was I was half asleep. So when I closed one eye, I was dreaming. It was this very bizarre experience I had. I closed my eye, one eye was dreaming, opened my eyes, I was normal. So I went to my pillow, and when I closed my eye, I could see this, like 2 figures or something, what it was. I was not sure what it was. I saw these 2 figures. So what I did was I closed my eyes, like, not fully. I know my eyes are small, but like 90% I closed them.
Right, yeah.
And then I was trying to see what it was. And I swear I saw something. So what I saw these 2 little men who was preparing this PowerPoint presentation. And they saw me. And they're like, shit, close it up. And then they closed everything. And when I closed my eyes, opened it, I couldn't see anything.
That was
so crazy.
Had you heard this PowerPoint theory before you had this dream?
I did have this PowerPoint theory. So you could think about it that way.
Yeah,
but it was like so surreal.
Yeah.
So I know it was a hallucination. It doesn't make sense, but maybe I tapped into some like borderline.
Maybe there are some really tech-savvy gnomes wandering around Bhutan setting up PowerPoint presentations.
So I don't know if anyone in the comments has shared a similar experience. Maybe let me know, because when I initially had my sleep paralysis things and the diagnosis from my parents was like, oh, in Bhutan we believe that we call sleep paralysis the ghost which comes and holds you when you sleep.
Right.
So you go dezung. You say like, you don't never say sleep paralysis. You say, oh, the ghost held me last night. So whenever I used to hallucinate, like, your mind plays tricks on you, right? You could feel like like claws holding on to you, or bite from like someone. But when you calm down, you just realize, okay, nothing's there. Yeah. It's just your mind. Like I could be like, don't think about my butt, don't think about butt, and all of a sudden someone's gonna grab my butt. It's like something like that. It's like reverse psychology. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So I was so comfortable with sleep paralysis. Like now I've made friends with my sleep paralysis demon, because I know it's like my mind playing tricks. So I'm like, oh fuck, I need to get up. But every time the mind plays tricks, like I'm up. I'm like, wait a minute, it's not really. I'm not up yet. Shit.
Yeah.
So I've become good at now differentiating whether I'm in my sleep mode and my real life. Okay. Hopefully I am in this real life. So when I saw that hallucination, I was like, what the fuck was that? I could not explain it. So hopefully someone in the comments could explain what I saw. But that was weird.
That's a cool dream.
I don't know. But then I've seen some creepy stuff also. Like they say never open your eyes when you're in sleep paralysis.
I often sleep with my eyes open, actually.
What the?
Yeah, I never fall asleep with them open, but I often wake up with them open. So not so much these days, but
is that normal?
No, it's not. You have really dry eyes. It's really bad for your eyes. But there was one time I did it when I was, still a teenager. And, my mum came into my room to wake me up, and I was actually sleeping like this with my eyes open. It's a classic vampire look, watching out for the vampire hunters.
What the fuck? Yeah. But is there like a medical like reasoning for when people sleepwalk? Because my sleepwalking when I was a kid was very creepy. I used to go to the veranda of our house, and I would cry. I would bawl my eyes out, like saying like I've lost somebody. And my parents would see me in the veranda in the middle of the night, like, what are you doing? And they'll take me back to bed. And I did that for like at least, I think, a year when I was a kid. So my parents' theory was, they said that like there was a ghost, a female ghost which hadn't moved on and then used me.
So so you're possessed in these
moments, maybe. Because
Yeah.
there was no reason for me to go to the veranda and start crying every night.
Yeah.
And it was a consistent thing.
I used to go and walk to the bathroom and stare at my own reflection.
While sleepwalking.
Yeah, and it's a very, very creepy experience because it's like you're staring into another dimension because you still got that sleep, like dreamy brain, right? And that's the kind of cool stuff. Then I probably still do it, but just at a minor level, maybe walk around the room or something sometimes. But I don't do anything crazy anymore. But there's two funny stories. One, I was staying at a friend's place and I was sleeping during the day and I walked down. He's on the phone to his parents in England and I'm walking with my wallet in my hand and my boxer shorts on, nothing else. And he's like, Shawn, where are you going? And I was like, I don't know. He repeated the question and I went, I don't know. I just turned around and walked back up. Another time, at a different friend's place, I shut myself out of his apartment like at 2 a.m. And he had like stairs going down and then there's a hallway on the other side. And I woke up, but I was still in that dream mind state that you have for like 15 seconds sometimes afterwards. And I was convinced there was someone on the other side of that hallway. There wasn't. I tried to knock on the door and then I climbed around and climbed up several balconies to get inside. But yeah.
Okay, but is it like what is the scientific reasoning of the sleep?
That I don't know. I mean, there's people who do sleep research, so they would have answers for it. I mean, it's probably tied to some kind of anxiety, or just your brain being overactive when it should be resting. I really don't know.
Okay.
Or you know, like
sleepwalkers in the comments, let us know.
There's a spirit of woman trying to find her kid on the veranda.
Yeah, maybe. I have another spooky story, but all my spooky stories are when I was a kid. So I don't know whether I've convinced myself that those were actually memories or just dreams.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have this feeling, and then also like I get this a lot. You know, the opposite of deja vu.
Vujade?
I think it's I don't know. It's called jarmepu or something.
Okay.
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
But what is the opposite? Would surely be I've never experienced this before.
So basically, it's
which seems very ordinary.
Deja vu is doing something which you think you've done before, right?
Yeah, or like I've felt like I've been here before, I've experienced this before.
So jarmepu is doing something which you've always done. Now you know what to do, but it feels like the first time.
Oh, I get it. Okay, that makes sense.
So sometimes I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And you feel like, you see sometimes like, you know, they call it the glitch in the matrix. So in the theory that we're all in the matrix, sometimes we see something which is off.
Yeah.
There's a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
And then like I've like kind of like, I've seen or like felt some of those moments.
Yeah.
But I never asked you, Father Shawn, are you a Christian or are you atheist?
I'm an atheist.
You're an atheist?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. They still gave me the collar.
Yeah, they still give you the collar. But then with all your supernatural, like urban legends, stories, research, and you being atheist, do you believe in any of them?
That's a very interesting question. So I want to say, first of all, it's actually not important to me whether they're true or not. It's not important to my research to prove or disprove them because you can't either prove or disprove, really. That's a fool's game and no one will believe you anyway. So I'm interested in why the stories exist. I think they have like a social function. But, you know, I'm a skeptic by nature, but being a true skeptic means you are open to the possibility.
Yeah.
And you should also think, how can I disprove this? So when people tell me there's a ghost that hangs around, there's lots of ghost stories from RTC.
Actually, RTC is a spooky place.
Yeah.
Do you know the backstory? Apparently, this could be true or wrong, but okay, maybe you can correct me. What I heard was the area, Ngabipu. It was like a forest 20 years ago, basically. And then apparently they didn't do the rabne, which is basically like asking permission or doing the rites when we build things. And all the spirits which resided there and now having these new welcoming inhabitants, they're upset, so they'll show it in other ways. And Royal Thimphu College has the unfortunate curse that every year one student, self-exits. I have to use YouTube terminology. But there's a story, right?
I can't comment on that, obviously.
Okay.
But those stories do exist, sure. But there's lots of other ghost stories around, like especially the waste disposal area on the way up to RTC. Tons of supernatural tales from there, and it is. I've wandered through the forest there. It's a weird place.
But then again, it does have a voice activation, like when you walk in, you're like, Chani ko macho. Chani. I'm like, what the? Got me off guard like 2 times. Luckily, it wasn't broad daylight.
That's new. I heard it for the first time a few weeks ago, and I was like, someone got a radio nearby? But even before then, so the area around there used to be a burial site for stillborn children.
What?
Yeah.
What? The exact spot where the
Not that exact spot. Near there. There.
Oh, okay.
And
why there?
That's a good question. I'm trying to find that out.
Okay, so that's creepy.
There's also... Okay, this is slightly controversial to mention.
Okay.
You can feel free to edit this out if you feel it's too controversial.
Okay, let's hear it first.
There's a Christian burial ground out there in the forest as well.
Okay, are we allowed to say that?
I mean, there are no official Christian burial grounds in this country.
Actually, theoretically, yes. We know there's a Christian community, but where do they have the funerals,
I mean,
right?
the burial grounds exist.
Yes, they do exist. They have to be
I
somewhere,
really
right?
don't want to say much more about that.
Okay.
Because,
Okay, we can talk off camera. But anyways,
Yeah.
Okay, there's allegedly a Christian burial ground in area of
I've
artistry.
been told. I've not performed any funeral. Rites.
Okay, all right. Okay. Not yet, at least.
Now, I used to walk down that road quite a lot. And, people would tell me stories. A common one is RTC students would tell me they're riding their bicycle downhill and they feel like a hand grabs their backpack and draws them to a stop, right? And there's more than one person who's told that story or a variant of it. Now, interestingly, I had a similar experience there once. There's a totally rational explanation, but, I'll give both sides. So one winter I was getting a lift back with a friend of mine who, a medical doctor, and so he's Indian. There was a Bhutanese girl in the car as well. And we come to just that point. The waste disposal unit was not there at those stages, but we went over the bridge and then the car just carks it. It just stops fully. And we open it up and there's a massive hole in the radiator. And we're thinking, can we walking down to the creek with these Coke bottles and stuff and pouring water in there? And it wasn't enough. And this was a cold winter. So I'm thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to walk up 40 minutes in this ice cold.
But then again, if it's cold winter, the radiator could
exactly.
cool
And
fast.
there's a hole in the radiator that can't be fixed. So, right.
You can take a piss.
Right. Now, I got lucky and a taxi driver was driving his wife back. He refused to take any money. He dropped me at RTC. And they eventually made their way back. And it was an old, crappy car that some chillip years ago had just left, not bothered selling it to anyone. And so the people in the building would just take turns using it. Right. And so it was a bad car. That's obvious the reason why it stopped working. The flip side to that, though, is it could have stopped working at many other points, but it was right there. Now, I hadn't heard the stories about the, hands pulling you to a stop. So if you're a believer, you might think, obviously it stopped there because of the witchery or whatever that goes on. I've heard stories of witches flying across, so I'm very much believer, back to the skeptic point, right? I'm curious, so I will go to a place if people say, for sure, this house is haunted, for this is. And I've never had an experience that has convinced me of the supernatural, right? But I go there, and the worst thing about going to that waste disposal unit, because the only time I can get to do it because of the RTC schedule is during the winter, it's fucking cold. Just sitting there for an hour, either at midnight or at 3 o'clock in the morning or, any appropriate time. It is so goddamn cold. And I'm much more concerned of a wild boar than I am
of anything which creeps in.
Yeah, but there's lots of stories from there.
Okay, fair enough. We got some few stories. Do you have any true crime stories, Father Shawn?
Let's talk about Khekpa.
Oh, Khekpa, yeah, that's a good one. It's a legendary. Okay, we can do that. I'll just go to the washroom real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, pause. We're back. All right, Khekpa.
So I guess most of your listeners are probably going to know what Khekpa are, but some might be, foreigners. Or some. I've also encountered some Bhutanese who've never heard of it, which is really weird. So Khekpa, otherwise known as a head cutter, is somebody who abducts and kills usually children, beheads them, and then those heads are buried underneath new constructions, bridges, buildings, hydroelectric dams, so the legends go. It's an old legend, and there's other cultural equivalents.
Yeah,
of
I think
the same kind of practice.
The Great Wall of China, the legend is like
there's
all the dead workers. Right. It makes the structure stronger or something.
Yeah, that's a theory, but of course it could just be like people are dying in the construction. And it's like, just bury them in the wall.
Legend,
yeah,
right.
I mean, so, but in Japan there's a practice not done anymore, but a historical practice where people were buried in mines to make the structures more stable.
Oh, so it exists. Okay.
But also you look at like a lot of the Buddhist legends in this country about the demonesses being buried, like there's a symbolic link, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so Khekpa, typically they target prepubescent children, but there are stories of adults like being victims. Okay. There's lots of Khekpa stories, and they exploded within the last 20 years. So my view in terms of the social logic of the Khekpa tales is it demonstrates both simultaneously a fear of the rapid pace of modernization as well as an embracing of tradition. Right? So, there's a story, and the location of this bridge always changes in the version of the story I tell. A bridge that kept falling down, Indian engineers were building it, didn't work until the locals realized the reason it's falling down is because there's no child that's been buried in there, right? So supposedly that was done, and now the bridge still stands. But where this bridge really is, I don't know.
So the rule is we just need one kid.
Yeah, it does vary a bit. Sometimes it's more than one, and sometimes it's buried alive. Those are the legends. Now, keep in mind, these are legends, right? And it seems to me to be a story you tell your kids to stop them hanging around in dangerous places, right? Like a stranger danger kind of thing, right? And it makes a lot of sense that way to get kids afraid of Khekpa. Because I've never encountered anybody who's ever claimed to have met a Khekpa, right? And of course, the counter for that is, well, they're too good, they'll kill you if you find out. Right? But
no one has seen and met and been alive to tell about it.
Yeah. And then there is one story, though, I heard from someone who, a relative, when they were younger, said one came knocking on their door and showed the warrant.
I need a child.
Yeah. Now, but we can't totally discount the possibility that this has been practiced, because it's obviously, the legend of the Chorten out east, the live burial in that, and people have been buried alive in buildings before. So I ask myself, if there was proof that they existed, what proof would you expect to find? Decapitated bodies would be one, right? Especially of children. Now, it was 2019, 2020, sometime around then. There was an Indian tourist, middle-aged woman, or like not quite middle-aged, she was in her 40s. And she'd been seen in the company of this Bhutanese guy, and then nobody saw her for a while, and the hotel staff forced entry. This is true crime. This happened. You can look it up. And they found her decapitated body on the bed or on the floor, and underneath the bed was the weapon, presumably, that did it, which was a knife. Of course, it's a bit atypical because Khekpa is supposed to target prepubescent kids.
Yeah, wrong.
You would probably want like a Bhutanese person, not an Indian tourist. And, in Motitong a couple of years back, was it a year and a half? There were a couple of headless bodies found.
Are you talking about the sewage tank? The water tank?
The version I heard was a rubbish, like under a pile of rubbish. What's the water tank?
No, there was this. No, it's actually irrelevant. It was this lady who was found, who was missing, and then there was a distinct taste which was coming from the housing's water, and they found out that there was the body was found in the water tank.
And then that happened here?
Yeah, that was in Bhutan. It was like a year or two ago.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very similar to that famous American case.
The elevator case.
Yeah.
So in that case, I think the girl was just found by herself. But in this case, I think,
but not decapitated.
Not decapitated. But they found the culprit. It was the husband. It's always the husband. Actually, in my research of true crime, if there's a couple and the wife goes missing, 80% is the husband.
Yeah.
It's always that case, right?
Yeah.
But if in the other way around, let's say if the husband goes missing, is it likewise?
I think most violent crime is committed by someone like against yourself, right? If you're the victim. So this is the most likely culprit, right? It depends upon how the crime is done, though. So it's different now because we're access, not in this country, but to a lot of places, to firearms and stuff. But female serial killers typically prefer poisoning. There's male serial killers who've done poisoning as well. But or just violence. It's easier to poison someone, right, than it is to hack them into little bits.
Yeah.
But it also depends on your motivations. If it's a crime of passion, you're more likely to actually brutalize the body. Yeah. But anyway, so a couple of headless bodies found in Motitang. And then in the same year, there was the body of a woman found in the outskirts of a forest near Thimphu, I believe it was.
Okay.
Also headless. And some sign of her legs being chewed, which could be wild animals, obviously. And someone said, oh, the wild animals took the head. But why just the head? Wild animals going to eat every damn thing. Like, especially if it's boars, they'll just eat everything. Wild dogs would also tear it to bits. So anyway, there have been definite murders involving decapitation in this country, as well as possible murders involving decapitation in this country. That in itself doesn't prove Khekpa, though, because decapitations are not that rare.
So you're telling me this Khekpas just decapitate you, take your skull, and then use that, or did you
to bury it? But there's versions where the whole body is buried, or sometimes you're buried alive. But the most common one is
just the head.
Decapitation, yes, where they carry the farmer's sickle and axes and stuff.
Actually, there's a similar, not similar, but then there's a story of decapitation. I think happened a year or two. Could be wrong, but basically in Paro they found this young boy who was SA'd and murdered, and his head was cut off, and they couldn't find the culprit.
Was this the one that happened during COVID?
I remember it was in Paro. I'm not sure.
They were, I remember a Paro one, and the child. I remember it was a boy or a girl, but they were on their way home from school, taking a back road, and it ended up being like an uncle or someone like that, or someone who'd been watching them for a while. And it was extremely brutal murder. Yeah, from what I recall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like me, that kind of. But hey, those are unsolved, by the way.
It's not the one I'm thinking of then.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just give you another completely off topic, but a theory which I heard recently. So, remember last year when they found this young girl who was being stalked, and then she wasn't SA'd, but she was murdered, and then they found the culprit. Remember, he was like, he had stalked her from the Mega Night. You know that story?
Yeah.
So there's a theory. So the story which was presented to us was she met this strange person on the way to school, because it was broad daylight, it was 9 a.m. And he was like asking her for some money or help, and she was like, I can't help you, but maybe if you follow me, I can do something or something like that. And then he took her to the forest, and then he presumably took advantage and then ended her life. And then later on, they found surveillance footage to backtrack his footsteps, and then they found out it was him. So the story was he was drunk on the Mega Night. He woke up, and then he found her on the street, and then he was like, hi, and then he was probably intending to do something with her, and then one thing led to another, murdered. So that was the story which was presented to us, at least to the public. But now this everything from here is hypothetical, right? All theory. It's all theory. So here's what the theory is. The theory is he actually had a motive. He knew her.
Okay.
He knew her, and he wanted to. He stalked her. He did his research, and then he ended her life. That was the first theory. They knew each other. The story was before that.
That would explain why she would go into a forest with it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the second theory is, so prior to that, a few years ago, there was this cold case where it was a young girl. She was 9 years old, and again, similar area. It was in Taba, Ditchling area. This story, I think, what I'm talking about right now was in Pamso, but then the other story which I'm talking about, a young girl being disappeared. She was found, I think, either headless or parts of her were gone. So the theory was someone either committed a crime, got away with it, or an animal could have done it. But it didn't seem like... It seemed like an animal came after it was already,
This sounds very similar to the story I was saying, so they're probably the same.
So the theory goes that girl either saw him commit that crime, and he was going out to cut loose ends. It was a second incident. But so either there was a connection between him
is
and
that
the girl
just
and
theory,
the girl.
Though, or is
it's a theory. It's a theory.
Yeah.
So the theory is whether we don't know whether there was some connection with both the girls, like the girls knew each other, or she knew him and she knew that he did that before. But the strong theory which I believe is, I think it could be, I don't believe it, but I'm more inclined to believe it. But basically, she was the first victim. And then he went to this girl again, and he did, because the person, how the person was, murdered was very similar MO,
Yeah.
So the theory is that it could be this. It could have been him who did that crime, which was a cold case, and then they caught him for doing this current case, but then they didn't connect with both cases that it could be the same person. So that's the theory.
It's interesting because serial killings happen all over the world.
Yeah.
But they are most common in countries in a process of hypercapitalization. So in South Korea in the early 2000s, the country had a massive boom, and with the economic boom, there was also a boom in serial killing.
So what's the correlation?
So sociologists and psychologists say the correlation is the gap between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, widens substantially in a hyper-capitalist culture. And so those people who have a mental disposition towards psychopathy or whatever fall most often in the have-nots. And so feeling left out by society, they develop a psychosis. There's a very famous series of murders in South Korea where rich older people were being killed with a hammer.
Okay.
It was actually a jury-rigged sledgehammer cut down. It took a long time for the police to work out what the weapon was because of that. And I'm not saying that the motivations of serial killer are anti-capitalist or anything like that, but it's absolutely there is a trend. Now, some people in Bhutan are getting much richer. And not everybody is. I don't mean to blacklist the country or give a bad reputation to the country or anything, but it is something to be careful for. And also, frankly, if you're a serial killer, if you were inclined to it, this country would be so easy to get away with it.
Okay.
It's covered by so much forest.
How to get away with murder.
Okay,
Father Shawn. Here's how I would do it, okay?
Okay.
Now, this is giving away my... if I ever do it.
You haven't thought about this at all before.
I've actually thought about it very rigorously, actually.
Okay, yeah.
So, it sounds kind of morbid and gruesome, but here's how it goes, okay? You had to first make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
Obviously. So there's multiple ways. You can either slowly poison them, you can cut their brakes, you can...
Cut their brakes, the brake lines.
Brakes of their car, or you can maybe soap their toilet so they slip and fall. Anything. But make it look like an accident. The basis is make it look like an accident.
I think the toilet one, you'd have to be dealing with really old people for that to work.
But then you need a lot of research and all the patterns, their movements, just like how the Louvre, scam, the Louvre heist.
Yeah.
But anyways, then once... but if you cannot make it look like an accident, because then if you do make it look like an accident, it's the easiest way. There's no way tying it to you.
Yeah.
But then if let's say you do commit the crime of murder, then the best thing would be first of all is to cut their body parts in separate places and then hide it separately.
Yeah.
And I would recommend not to throw it in the river because it could easily come back on shore.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually, you shouldn't be throwing things into the water.
So preferably you would like to bury it somewhere far and all separate. Yeah. And if you could do the cherry on top of all the murder biryani that you're doing when you're preparing everything.
With egg or without egg?
I think with egg sounds nice, but no. But anyways, you bury the body. Okay, let's say just the torso. Okay, torso. You dig a 6 feet deep hole. You bury it for another 3 feet. Then you add a dead animal on top.
I was going to say the same thing, and I'm glad you said it because I don't get blamed.
Okay. Then you put a dead animal, then you bury it again. So in the event that they can track one of the sites,
becomes a false positive.
Oh, it's an animal.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
So that's how would you would get away.
Another thing, so I know quite a lot about this stuff because I teach archaeology, right? The least detectable burial is the body is standing up rather than lying down.
Okay.
Because that's to do with satellite scanning and that kind of stuff, right? And also there's less surface area for which you to find something. I feel like we're going to get a talking to by the police or something. Irresponsible advice we're giving to Bhutanese citizens. Of course, nobody in Bhutan would ever contemplate.
Maybe they'll contemplate murder, but I don't think we'll ever have a serial killer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, because I've watched this show on Netflix I would recommend called Mind Hunters.
Yeah, I know.
So basically, it's about this behavioral science unit in FBI which coins the term serial killer because before there was no such term. So basically, if you could find an archetype of what a serial killer is a person who is obviously from underprivileged background and a very abusive parental role. Parents is in the household. So usually it's a mom. Most of it can happen a man. You can be a very very authoritative father, and then you later on try to rebel because of that. But most of the time it's always a mom. And what happens is if the mom is not very good to the son, because usually a serial killer is always mostly men. Okay, you got to be honest.
Yeah, mostly.
So then the mom will not be good to him either. She shows resentment towards her, towards him for maybe her life, and then showing off their insecurities to them, and making them emasculated. And then because of the psychological damage that the upbringing at home, they'll always choose to act out. So if another pattern you can notice is they start small. So usually animals like rats and like bunnies or dogs, and then that's like a big warning sign. And later on, because of the bad relationship with their mother and them not fitting in the right place, and maybe school's not great, maybe they're getting bullied a lot. There's a lot of up-pent, rage and anger that they want to show. So whether it be, I hate all jocks because they were mean to me, and hate sports in general. But another darker way you can go is I hate women. Because women were horrible to me my whole life. They never accepted me. They're you give me a huge misunderstanding. Like fuck them. Like what's women? They're beneath men. And then they start doing this kind of killings because they hate women and they just want to be in power because they've always felt powerless. But when they start to taking people's lives and they see their life fade away, they feel some sort of like, oh, I can reclaim that power back. So that's usually the archetype of a serial killer: a man, bad relationship with mom, and thoroughly bullied at school. So that's usually patterns of a serial killer.
There are some exceptions, though. Some very famous exceptions.
Cool.
H.H. Holmes. So when the Chicago World's Fair was happening, he built a hotel, and there's lots of urban legends about this, which are just not true. So the urban legends are that there was like secret doors and passageways and chutes, and that people would fall into them, and he would kill them, and he had a room rigged up so they would be burned alive, and that he killed hundreds of people. Actually, he probably only killed 3, right? Which qualifies as being a serial killer. You have to have 3 or more.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
That's distinct from a spree killer, who kills many more in a single instant. Right?
Oh, a spree killer.
So H.H. Holmes had a lot of money and was very well educated, and so there are exceptions like that.
Okay.
But he obviously was a sociopath or a psychopath, or so I should ask my oldest brother is a psychology professor.
But how come we see this kind of like, what do you call, serial killers in these capitalistic kind of countries, rather than more like Asia? You don't hear much serial killings in Asia. Like maybe South Korea, maybe Japan, but they're like a huge population.
There's actually a ton.
Really?
And some of the highest body counts are from Chinese serial killers who were operating back in the 60s. So it depends on the environment. In China at the time, it was easily, if you're an itinerant worker, you're going from one province to the next quite easily. So you kill someone in this province and then you move on, and then you kill some more people and you keep moving on. I forget his name, but there is a notorious Chinese serial killer from about the 1960s who killed, confirmed, about 100 people. Right? And also the other privileged kills, Dr. Shipman, the English guy who euthanized without them wanting to be euthanized many of his elderly patients, confirmed about 100. The police theorize it could be hundreds more. He's probably the highest body count.
And he had a fetish of euthanizing people or something.
Yeah, and he never confessed. I don't think he even responded to the police questions at all. We have no idea why he did it. He's dead now. He died in custody. I agree with you. I don't think the conditions here in Bhutan are quite ripe for this kind of crime, but it would not surprise me at all. It would be interesting to see how many people go missing.
But I think in order to be a serial killer, you have to be kind of calculative, because the real, successful ones are like these charming people who who spy on their potential victims. They do their research, and then they're really good at hiding.
Yeah.
So those are the true sociopaths who can just blend in natural in society. Have you heard about the BTK killer?
Bind, torture, kill.
Yeah, bind, torture, kill. Yeah. So basically, he actually got away with it, and then he retired, but after 10 years, Hitch came back.
He was caught. Was it the late 90s or something like that?
I think it was the 2000s. He was caught in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened was he started killing again, and he sent a letter to the police saying like, "Catch me if you can."
Yeah. And they did.
And then they said, "Okay, but if you want to send us a message, please send us in a floppy disk so we cannot trace it." No, he asked him. He said, "If I can send you a message because I want to send you a message.
Yeah.
Is there a way if I send it in a floppy disk, can you trace it back to me?" And the cop said no.
He asked the police.
He asked the police. He said, "Would you be able to trace it back to me?" And they said no. And he said, "Okay." So then they sent him. He sent him like a manifesto, like I am this, I am that, blah blah blah. So what happened was they tracked it back to this floppy disk into an IP address, and they found out it was a church. Funny enough,
he was from a very Christian family.
So it's a church. They found a library with a laptop, where there was one computer. So they said, okay, it's definitely someone who visits the church.
Yeah.
And then they went more on to say it was not a person who was like attending. It was someone who works within the church. And then they had two other clues. So during the investigation for the BTK killer, they found out that he wore a certain type of shoe. So they had a footprint of it.
That's right. I remember that detail.
And then they had a description of what kind of car he would be driving. So it's like an SUV type, but they couldn't pinpoint what kind of SUV it was. But they found that this is the type of car, which is like a SUV kind of car. So when they went to the library, and then they found, they asked if anybody would be driving this car, and they said yes, there was a person who was driving this car. And when they checked about him, they said, what's his shoe size? What shoe? Again, correlation. But the only person who was like fit their description of this, this person could be, was like this senior pastor who was working in the church. And then they caught him. And then what was crazy was he was like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He was a great father. But he just knew how to blend in.
Yeah.
And he had that ego. He was like, I got away with it, but I still need the admiration. And then I want to gloat in front of the cops.
Good old kick again. Yeah.
So that's kind of like, but these are the kind of like killers which like got caught because they were being it's too close to the sun. But when you get like serial killers like the Zodiac,
right? Yeah.
Like that guy,
never caught. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
And also we probably caught him, but I don't know if you know the Texarkana killer. Also called the Texarkana Phantom or the Phantom of Texarkana. That's the story that's actually the origin of urban legends, the idea of urban legends.
Oh, okay, please do share.
All right, so there's a town in Texas called Texarkana. So it's near the border with Arkansas. And in 1947, there was a series of attacks, in Lover's Lane style attacks, like the Zodiac in a way, right? So this guy, he went up with a pistol, he was wearing a hood, and he opened fire. He also essayed some of the people.
Okay.
Never caught. A suspect's wife contacted the police, and I think my husband's the Phantom because of evidence she gave. But when it came to the court trial, she refused to give evidence for I don't know what reason against her husband. But the police ended up charging this guy on a slew of other crimes, and he did a very, 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 very long sentence.
Okay.
And the killings also stopped.
So how did the urban legend part come?
Okay, so there's an old folk legend from America about the hook-handed killer.
Okay.
And this got tied somehow with the Texarkana killings in folklore. So emerging about a decade later, that the Texarkana killer had a hook hand, which he didn't. No survival accounts ever said he did, right? He used a pistol as well. And then this fear of Lover's Lane killing started then, and then it's reinforced with people like the Zodiac killer or the Son of Sam killer, David Berkowitz, right? And then by the 70s, a movie about the Texarkana killings came out, one of those like cheap exploitation films, like a slasher film basically called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And it embellished the crimes including things he didn't do, like, for example, tying a knife to a trombone or something and killing a girl that way by blowing into it and, back and forth, back and stabbing her repeatedly, tied to a tree. And then that became accepted as part of the actual legend of the Texarkana killings, but they're so separate. And as a result of these kinds of killings, people would write, Dear Jane kind of letters to, the magazines and things and giving people warnings. So there's some components of the classic urban legend, which is one, it's told not from your perspective, but a friend of a friend met this guy, or, my uncle's housemate had a strange encounter. Very rarely is it me. And then they share certain characteristics. Typically, so the stories are meant to scare you or to entertain you, but they also typically have a moral to them. And the moral might be something really simply like, don't go make out with your boyfriend in your car late at night, on a quiet road. Or it could be something different, right? And that comes from the American style urban legend, but now these are proliferated around the world. So there typically is some kind of warning or moral to the tale. And really urban legends, true or not, they're retold and retold because they reflect current social anxieties. And so over the decades, we have come up with different things that we've thought of as the boogeyman, right? So serial killers is one, aliens another, right? Ghosts, demons, whatever. Some of them quite deliberately invented. And then you find people who claim to have met the invented thing. Slender Man is an example of that, right? Which came about as a creepypasta.
Yeah.
But there are people who claim, no, I know a guy who really encountered Slender Man.
Yeah.
No, you didn't, because it doesn't exist, right? It's an invention. And the elevator game is another example of that. Right. This one's from a Japanese version of like 2chan or something like that, right? From 2008. So what you do, you get into an elevator, you need about 16 stories. I played this when I lived in New York because, as I said, I put my money in my mouth for this, right? You have to press the floors in a certain sequence. So you go up for a bit, you go down, back up, down. At a certain point, a woman gets on. You never look at her, never acknowledge her, just keep your eyes down, because if you do, bad things will happen, right? She'll get off at some point, and finally when you reach the top, doors open and all you see is this red void in front of you. You can go out into this other dimension for a little while. You shouldn't stay out there too long. The elevator doors will stay open for quite a while, but don't lose your way or you'll be stuck in this other dimension. And then you go back and then you have to press the buttons in the reverse order. So I played this.
Tried it,
I played it. No woman got on. I was doing this like 2 a.m. or something. No woman got on, and I didn't go into some kind of red hell alternate dimension. But I bet the security guy at the bottom of the building is thinking, what the fuck is this weirdo doing?
But nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Not even remotely creepy.
No, kind of. Towards the end, I'm thinking, this is boring. Just all right.
It's similar to also like the Bloody Mary thing, no?
Oh, right, yeah, exactly.
The Bloody Mary thing is if you say Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror, Bloody Mary will appear and will kill you.
Yeah. There's various versions of that too, and I'm sure you've seen the Candyman movies.
Candyman.
That's say it 5 times in front of a mirror. That's a common thing. Like like say their true name or something like that, and then you can summon them, and then bad things will happen to you. And it's a good question of why would you ever want to summon Bloody Mary if she's going to kill you?
I think we just say, hey, could you do it? But we have something similar. But
I have heard of one from a high school actually, but please tell me your version.
So it's not actually Bloody Mary, but we talked about this on last year's Spooky podcast. So basically, have you heard of Sangwai Charo, the secret friend which you meet in the 3 rivers?
No.
Oh, you don't know about this? No. Wow, it's one of the most popular ones. Okay. But most Bhutanese know about this. So Sangwai Charo is basically your secret friend. So there's many versions of it. When I was a kid, I thought it was a yeti, but it's like this deity which is like not visible, but it's like only you see it. So what happens?
Like an imaginary friend?
Like an imaginary friend which will help you, give you an edge in whatever you want to do. So the story is like, if you go between 3 rivers,
any 3. As long as there's a...
I could be wrong, but any 3 rivers, and then you go there into this... where three rivers meet.
Like the Y.
Yeah, like I don't know, or two rivers meet, whatever it is. And then you go in the middle of the night and you take a bunch of shakam, eze, and then you take a dice. So you know show, right? The Bhutanese dice game. So you play dice by yourself. You keep playing, and you keep saying, constantly saying, I win, you lose. I win, you lose. And then whenever you win, you just eat that. Take a bite of the shakam, okay? So eventually, a person will appear and will play the game with you because it's curious, saying, what are you doing in the middle of the night in this location? And when this person comes against similar thing, you don't look at them, and then they'll say, let me play. And then they say, okay. And you say, I win, you lose. And then when you win, you take a bite of the shakam. And since you lost, you either give him like some like a veiny part, the tendons, or you give them easy, nothing, none of them. But you can constantly say, I win, you lose. I can't win. And eventually, the entity, I would say, will get irritated and say, hey, what's going on? He said, let me give it a go. And he'll raise his hands. And when he raises his hands, you have to grab it.
His hand?
Yeah, grab his hand.
Yeah.
And then you never let him go. And finally, when you let him, he said, okay, now I'm under your possession. What do you want? And you say, okay. Then you give him a wish. You say, okay, now you're my slave now. And he said, do you wish to take this deal? He said, if you take the deal, what happens is this entity will be your slave for the remainder of your life. But when you die, you'll be the slave of this entity for the remainder of eternity.
This does not seem worth it.
Yeah, but it's like like a in this life.
It's a devil's bargain.
Yeah, a devil's bargain.
Yeah.
So it's a devil's bargain. So basically, in how the story goes is like it's a gambler who does it, and then every time he gambles, he has an edge and he constantly wins. But he gets a magical necklace which is never supposed to take it off. Okay, and later on, he's taking a shower, he takes it off, and then the entity finds a way to get out, and then kaput, now he's your slave. So that's the story.
Okay. I have heard the I win, you lose thing, but not tied with all the rest of that.
Oh, okay.
But, as I said, well, that's typical, like components of different folk tales and urban legends get placed in this one. But the whole, devil's bargain and tricking thing made me remember I said I would talk about the possible origins of the jack-o'-lantern for the Halloween. Okay, so there's a really old Irish legend, like centuries old.
It's Irish?
Yeah, it's Irish, called Jack Stingy, right? He was this prick who wandered around the countryside drunk, wouldn't pay things, fall asleep, just made a nuisance of himself, but was a very good manipulator, like very, very clever, would rip people off, get money for his drinks, and the devil hears about him and thinks, I want to see how good a manipulator is. So Jack Stingy's walking home one night drunk and he sees a body lying down and he thinks, I'll see what's up with this guy, and touches him and he realizes it's the devil and he's shocking horrified. And he begs the devil, please, before you take me to hell, allow me to have one more ale. The devil says, okay. So he takes him to a tavern and they go and they have drinks. He says to the devil, you'll have to pay because I don't have any money on me. He convinces the devil to turn himself into a silver coin. So he would pay the bartender with that. But the devil says, okay, but as soon as you don't see me, I'll turn back into my form and I'll take your soul to hell. But Jack Stingy is clever. He has a crucifix in his pocket and he puts the coin in the pocket. So he traps the devil, right? And he makes the devil agree to let him live for another 10 years before he takes him to hell.
Okay.
When 10 years pass by, the devil shows up. He says, okay, you got me. He says, all right, but before you take me to hell, I'm very hungry. Could I have one apple? And so they go to an apple tree and the devil climbs up the apple tree. Jack Stingy puts a series of crucifixes around the bottom of the tree so the devil can't get down. Okay. He makes the devil agree, you will never take me to hell, right? So and he goes off and then eventually Jack Stingy dies. And he goes
So the devil is stuck in that tree.
Yeah.
He says, joke's on you, bye.
Yeah, okay. But to let him go, he makes the devil agree. He'll never take him to hell.
Okay.
So when Jack Stingy dies, he goes up to heaven and they say, no, you've lived as a drunkard, you've lied to people, you've ripped people off, you're not getting in here. And so he goes down to hell, begs to be allowed to go into hell, and the devil says, no, you made me agree to never take your soul to hell. Okay. So he's wandering around earth and all he has is a turnip with a little candle in it to give him meager light. So there's an idea that that's the origins of the light within the pumpkin head, the jack-o'-lantern kind of thing.
But wasn't like the concept of Halloween was in Salem, right?
Well, the Halloween's different. I'm just talking about the Jack-o'-lantern itself.
Okay.
I know Halloween is older than Salem.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a very old European tradition. It's just the Americans really bought into it.
So what was the original tradition?
The Puritans. I mean, all throughout Europe, there's different old pagan traditions, like going thousands of years back of All Hallows Eve, being celebrated in different ways, and the belief that like the spirits are more active there. That's not a Christian thing. It just was adopted by Christian groups as a way to make fun of the devil, right? And to kind of laugh in the face of evil.
Okay. But which gives me to this one question. What was it? Like, what was it now? I lost my trail of thought. But basically, just because a woman would do some things that maybe a man could, they would classify as a witch and then burn them, right?
Yeah, but it also wasn't just, it was men as well.
So they would classify men as witches as well?
Yeah.
Or wizards?
So they would just use the term witch. So
Okay.
it's kind of more like that's a more pop culture thing, that women are witches, men are warlocks or wizards or whatever. But typically most of the victims were women, or probably most of the victims were women. And why? Because they're easy targets. In most of the witch hunting craze happened in the 1600s.
Yeah.
When you've got serious wars of religions between the Catholics and the Protestants,
Okay.
right? And between Protestants and Protestants, it's just bedlam. There's like villages being despoiled, because they're all Christian, but they belong to a different church, right? And as part of that, witch hunting crazes kick off, and it's been estimated that about 500,000 people were burned at the stake or otherwise executed for witchcraft during that century. And then by the end of it, Europeans finally got sick of all this war of religion, and the emergence of science, people became much more rationally minded in a way through the 18th century, but that shifted again towards the end.
Okay, but speaking on witches, and because I watched this recently, a movie called Weapons, I would recommend if you like.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's really good.
I like because I went in blind. I didn't think it would be a witchcraft movie.
I didn't know either, so I went in blind. I just knew that it had something to do with kids. And
Okay. We don't want to spoil it too much, but watch Weapons is a good movie. So basically, in Bhutan, we have a lot of shaman kind of lore as well, and exorcism and stuff like that also. Like, I'm not much of a believer in that, but especially when you live in Bhutan, we believe, like we say, spiritual, and we have a lot of deities here and there. I kind of feel like that is kind of possible, sorcery, because legend says, like, I could be wrong, but Shabdrung came and he defeated his enemies in Tibet with sorcery, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes when we do our rimdros and chokos, we do make effigies.
Yeah.
And we do make like someone's sick, and then we try to.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know, it kind of seems spooky, but it kind of works because they're doing the same kind of logic, right? So what do you think is your, like, I know you're a skeptic, but do you think shamanism could be possible?
So, I mean...
before you answer that, I just need to go to the washroom real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. And we're back. So, shamanism.
Yeah, okay. So I don't mean like my opinions to insult anyone's belief or anything. I would say on one level, I've never been confronted with any proof of magic. I've been confronted with many claims to proof of magic. On the other hand, right, science shows us that a sugar pill can work. Right? When they do control groups and trial groups and they give someone the actual painkiller and they give other people a sugar pill and say that's the painkiller.
Okay.
And their pain subsides, right? So there certainly is an element of mind over matter, which I think is a psychological thing.
Okay.
So I think that, if you're asking for my opinion, if you believe somebody can curse you, then it's possible that you will experience being cursed. Psychologically.
So what is that term called? That if you convince your mind that it becomes reality. What is that?
I mean, it's just so in a sense, I guess it's a form of like what do they call psychosomatic in a way. I mean, it's just belief or faith, if you will. And so, look, that's not something I investigate, so I don't want to take a hard stance on that.
Okay.
And anybody out there who wants to demonstrate real magic to me is welcome to. But I don't mean to be snarky there, but there was an American magician called James Randi. He was a magician as in an entertainer.
Okay.
And he took a hard stance. He was a hardcore unbeliever. And he said, look, this is all just trickery. And anyone who claims to be a faith healer, shaman or whatever is just a fraud. Right? And he and his society had a challenge where it was $1 million if you can prove that your magic is real. Nobody ever got that $1 million. He wrote a very interesting book on this phenomenon. It's if you,
I think I've seen the videos of this guy.
yeah, he was a very interesting guy. He died a couple of years back. I kind of admired his passion for rationalism. On the other hand, people such as him, not him, but people such as him can often take this too far and belittle these beliefs to characterizing it as just con artistry or stupidity. And I don't think it's that. There's more going on. The classic old anthropology book in which argued a similar thing but said the witch doctor in the village, everybody knows deep down that it's all a con. But it's to everybody's mutual interest to participate in it. So therefore it becomes real. It becomes a real cultural dynamic.
So it's like rules which the whole community has.
Yeah, because it serves a purpose.
And they just tell their offspring and generations after generations, it just becomes the truth.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, like the Khekpa, right? I've never encountered anyone who's encountered a Khekpa. But people believe in it or did believe in it, and it's a useful thing to believe in. But, I'm not trying to say if you disagree with me, you must be silly or anything, because I don't believe that, right? Like a true skeptic thinks anything is possible, but they also want proof.
Yes. Okay, so like there's this story of this cult leader in Korea. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
There's been many of them, yeah.
Yeah, but this is one famous guy where he started this cult. But the reason why this cult got going so well was because one day, for some reason, he just said that I'm chosen by God and I know everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he went around predicting weather, which the forecast was proving otherwise.
Yeah.
And he could predict sports scores.
Yeah.
And then people started believing in
Yeah.
him. So obviously we know what coincidences are, but a series of coincidences, do you think there's actually a cause and effect to that?
Well, let me put it this way in another situation. And I first heard this described by Stephen Fry, the comedian.
Okay.
So have you ever been at home doing nothing? You think of a friend, your phone rings, and it's your friend.
Yeah.
Right? So some people attribute that to some kind of psychic phenomenon.
Okay.
Think about how many times you've thought of your friend and the phone never rang.
Okay. But
right?
we just choose that one
So
instance.
humans have this awful tendency to connect the dots where there may not be any connections at all.
Yeah.
Right? It's like looking up at the cloud and saying, I see a dragon or I see a daffodil, or that's a phenomenon called apophenia, right? Where in very natural things, we see a distinct shape and we interpret something supernatural or meaningful from it. So with this guy, I know the cult leader you're talking about, but I don't know enough about the case to say, what was really going on was this.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you count all of his hits, you don't bother counting his misses, right? So,
Well, I'm not really I don't really know enough to know about his misses,
No,
but
I
I remember
don't
about
either,
his hits,
Yeah.
But what do you call that when a series of coincidences happen?
Well, so synchronicity is a thing, right? Where so there's a story about this. The Police have a song called Synchronicity about synchronicity, right? And there was a disc jockey at a radio who was playing it late one night, and one of the lines in the song is a star fall, and he looked out the window and he saw a shooting star. And he was like, wow, synchronicity, the song's playing, it's the lyric in the song. But prove it's not coincidence. Right? Now, I don't want to say people's faith is misguided or anything, but if you choose to take a rational point of view, then you require some element of proof, right?
Okay.
And you don't for everything, right? If you tell me a story, I'm not going to say prove that really happened, right? But if it's a system of thought that is trying to change the way that I interact with other human beings and the way that I live my life, that I want some proof.
Okay, Fair enough. Okay, I'll give it to you in this way. Like I'm still somewhat of a skeptic, but when I was in uni, I was convinced that God doesn't exist. There's no concept of God, and I was an atheist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's difficult because my parents are very spiritual to the point that they may be a little religious as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a little difference, but anyways. So I used to tell my mom like, I don't believe in whatever you're saying. This doesn't make sense. I manifest
Teenage
this.
angst, just
It's not
rebellion.
gonna work.
Yeah.
So when I was in uni, I've told this story before, but long story short, I was unfortunately stuck in a Malaysian detention hall. So it wasn't a prison, but it was basically like it because they basically caged us like animals in one big room.
Okay.
So anyways, when I was in that situation, I had no means of getting myself out because all my friends had left and they didn't know what to do because the police chased them away. I didn't get a phone call to inform anybody. And I also I'd overstayed my visa, which was partly true because it was under process, but it was already expired 3 months. So it was a sticky situation to explain to the police.
Yeah.
I said I was going to tell them so it's like, I'm in a pickle, I'm going to be in here. So when you're in the most desperate situation, what do?
Right. Yeah.
You pray.
To the faith. Yeah.
So like what I remember that moment. I remember it very clearly. And I said to myself, I'm not a man of faith. I don't really believe in this stuff, but I do know one prayer, which is the Oma Ubaz Guru Masido, which is the most easiest one-line prayer. And I said, okay, if Guru Rinpoche, you truly exist, you've existed, and my mother believes in you. Right now, I have nothing better to do than to pray. So let me just try. And if there's something which happens, then I'll believe that truly there is something which is spiritual, supernatural, which is beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
So anyways, for like 5 days, I just stayed there. Constantly in my head, I was just chanting like, Om Namah Shivaya, like, Om Namah Shivaya. Maybe 1,000 a day, So one fateful day, one guy walked in to the detention. And so what was happening was people going in and going out constantly. So new people coming in, some going out for court cases or being relocated. Anyways, one guy came in and he was the only person which I met who could speak proper English. So the long story short, he just told me that he's going to leave tomorrow. He's going to just stay here tonight. And tomorrow he's going to do the court proceedings, blah, blah. So I said, let me ask you a favor, if you could just listen to me. I said, I'm going to give you this number. Can you just text this number and say that your son is in the Malaysian immigration? Because this is my mom's number. She lives in Bhutan, far away. I'm here in Malaysia, stuck. She doesn't know where I am. All I want her is to know where I am, and then that'll be enough. Because my biggest worry was not to get out, actually, initially. Was my mom and I are very close, and she texts me like almost every day. And the fact that she will not know that I'm here would drive her crazy. So that was bothering me. So anyways, he was quite of a recovering drug addict, or was one. It took him a long time to get the number memorized, but he memorized the number, and I let him off. So again, another 2 days passed, no word, which means probably he didn't remember or couldn't contact. So later on, I go out, and then they interrogated me, blah, 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 this happened. This police officer was being difficult, but I remember, like I said, can I just have one phone call? And he was like, no, but I just said, please, just one. I have not contacted anybody. I'm just stuck here. So anyways, I called this person, and then I called my mom, and then she picks up, which was lucky, and then she says, like, don't worry, some random guy texted me and said, you're here. Now, okay, I told him he was not very reliable. He contacted, fine, fair enough. Rational, logical reason. Cannot be faith. But the thing was, I said, how did you manage to get me out here? And she said, so like every like Dharma practitioner has a root guru, as a teacher, right? So her teacher was this very esteemed Lama. His name was Khekpa. He's passed now, but basically he had a disciple in Malaysia, which my mom already had made contact because she's not that stupid. She said, in case anything goes wrong, let's contact her and figure it out. So she called Khekpa, the Lama, and he said, can you help me out? Maybe one of your disciples in Malaysia could help me out. So he said, okay, let me give a phone call. And he called this lady. And this lady was like not an ordinary person. She was like in a high post position. So he explained the situation, how I'm there. And she said, okay, let me figure it out. And then she called her husband. And now I'm not sure how accurate this part of the story is, but what she told my mom was, I called my husband, and fortunately he was golfing with the Minister of Immigration. And he said the story, and he just gave one phone call, and I was out literally on the day when he got the phone call. So it's not a story of obviously corruption and politics and everything. But like, the thing was, prior to this happening, I was very, I was an atheist. And before I left, I remember when I went to the train station where I got caught by the immigration police. They say like sometimes in life, you'll see these kind of ominous signs which will avoid you or give you a sign of what's going to happen. So when I went to the train station, the train left and I had to wait 30 minutes. And before I went to the train station, my friends were telling me like, stay back, let's just play a game. And they left me actually back for 3 days. So there were so many things withholding me from going or to get caught. And there was many signs, And there was also many reasons for me to stay in the detention, because on average, people would be there for 3 months. And what the police officer was telling me was like, this was December, you're going to be here at least till New Year. So I got out in like 6 days. My prison escape technique was a reach. It was a shot in the dark. It was this random drug addict I'd met in the detention hall who could possibly or could not possibly remember a number which was long, which is in order to contact my mom. A lot of factors had to be play for me to get out. So there's a lot of coincidences. So that's when I started thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to start believing this shit.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, I mean, as an anthropologist, I would say that I feel that everybody's beliefs are true. Now, what you mean by truth is
true to you.
A bit subjective, right? True to you, for example, or truly felt. Like, what matters more than what we actually feel, really, when it boils down to it? That's a reality. So I'm like not interested in disproving anything that you said, because to you, that has an absolute value as truth, right? But only because you asked me to think about things in a skeptical tone. I presented the opposite view. I mean, we know, obviously, logically, not everything can be true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And some have argued that actually nothing is true. But that's where do you go with that?
Yeah, but basically what I applied to my logic on that instance was like, I did something hoping the outcome would be and it actually happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you can see a connection between those things. And of course, you could, every step of the way, you could say, oh, okay, well, lucky coincidence, happenstance, whatever. But that's also, these are assumptions in a way. It's its own game of faith, if you will.
Yeah. But anyways, let us know in the comments. What do you think? Do you think this is a sign of God, faith, or another coincidence?
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I want to share with you,
okay, sure.
Dr. Shawn, Father Shawn, sorry.
Father Shawn, he's got it right.
We'll go a little bit towards a true crime story. So I'll tell you this true crime story, and let me give you your thoughts and maybe let's see if you can deduce the culprit, because it's a story of a whodunit. Okay. So this is a true story. This was like 2 years ago, and I watched this documentary on Netflix, and also there's a podcast which is about this particular case. So it's a cyberbullying case, which maybe many people can resonate with. So basically, there was this girl in America who was in a small town, very small town. It was like maybe 1,000 people living in that town.
Yeah, for America, that's very small.
Yeah, so it's a small town. So what happened was, she was popular in school because she was good in sports, and then she started dating this boy who was also good at sports and popular. And they were considered by this high school as the it couple. So whatever it is, later on she started getting a lot of hate messages which were being texted to her from this unknown number. So it's like saying like things like small like childish things like, I don't like your hair looks stupid, and your boyfriend doesn't want you, he wants me, things like that. And then slowly started escalating pretty bad, to the point that she had to tell the school, get the school involved. So when the school got involved, they realized this person was not very stupid. You would use this app to change their number. So every time, even if you block one number, you could just switch it up and then again continue to harass. And this person, this unknown number, was harassing not only the girl but the boy. And they were like constantly, to the point at its peak, it was like 500, I think, text messages a day, which is very, very heavy. And
But the girl is the one who started getting the harassment, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. The girl gets the harassment. So it's like things like for the girl, it was like like you don't deserve him. He wants me. You suck.
Yeah.
You're flat chested. Your tits are small.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All these things to make you feel down. And for the guy, it was like you break up, be with me. We're winning. You don't. Why you want to be a girl like her? She doesn't even suck dick. Not like me.
Yeah.
And it was like okay. So it happened to the point it was so bad. Then the guy was like, you know what? Let's give it what they want because they want us to break up. And maybe after we break up, we'll stop.
Yeah.
And then once it stops, maybe we can figure out what to do from there.
Yeah.
So they break up. And for a week, it's fine. So it's like, okay, they got what they wanted. But then again, the harassment starts again. And now we don't get the agenda. We don't get what they want. They just solely want to be, just want to be mean and evil. So later on, they get the police involved now. Now it's getting bad. Because they don't know who it is. The school, team is like monitoring with CCTV. Every time she gets a message, they're like checking who's on their phone. But like everyone's in their phone in high school in America, so like they couldn't like trace it down. Yeah. Then they go to the cops, and they have their suspects, but they still don't have enough evidence to say who it is who. So in this situation, the prime suspect is this mean girl in school. And she was apparently a ex, or there were a situation where she could have dated the guy we were talking about. But nothing happened. And she was known to be this mean girl. So she was the prime suspect. So she was brought in for questioning from the school and from the police, but she denied it immensely. And then even the parents backed her up. Wasn't working. Okay. Then the second suspect was this cousin of hers, cousin of the guy. Because what was happening was these text messages were getting really personal. They were like saying like, today you played really bad in basketball in today's match. You only scored this many points. You suck. And like, how could you know that unless you had to be there? So that's one thing. And another thing was like, I saw your sweater today in whatever, and it was looking really ugly or something like that. Like mistakenly mentioned like how specific the sweater looked like. And she was like, it was out of school. It was like a vacation. So it could be someone within the family. So that's why one of the cousins were doubted.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those were the two suspects. And then it was also like thought like it could be the girl, Maybe she wants attention. Maybe she wants that. So there was a lot of theories going around. Yeah. But then the little breakthrough that they got was once they were, the mean girl had traveled to some vacation spot. So what the cops said was, they found out like, wait a minute, if it's her, let's set a trap to see if it's her. So what we did was they found this geo location tracking app on the girl's phone, and they checked her whereabouts. So every time a text would come, they would try to, even if they couldn't pinpoint the number or the person, they could maybe pinpoint the location where it was coming from. So later on, when she did start getting these messages, they actually tracked those messages, and they found out it was the same location the mean girl was. Like, wait a minute, it's you. So the messages was like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'll get back. Like, very obvious,
Yeah.
So then, and later on, also when they checked her phones, the cops called her back. They said, the location came from this location where you were on vacation at this time where you're there. So when they did a phone check, they found nothing. Parents' phones, they didn't find nothing. So they were like, wait a minute. And again, she started getting messages saying that, hey, you tried to get me caught from the police, but I managed to escape. I'm still going to continue. Yeah. So now it looks like a setup.
Yeah.
It looks like a frame job. It's like, who could it be? So anyways, long story short, the cops now, they can't take it anymore. The mom, the boy's mom was also getting harassed so badly. Actually, one incident was now that the boy has broken up with the girl, he's actually, he started dating a new girl. And later on, the new girl
is getting the messages.
And the mom as well.
Yeah, okay,
it's like, who could this be?
Yeah, it seems kind of obvious, but yeah.
Okay, wait. We can get there. Yeah. Okay, by the way, at this point, even the parents are being investigated.
Yeah.
Everyone's a suspect. Okay?
Yeah.
So later on, they can't take it anymore. The cops, they ask advice from the FBI. And the FBI gets warrants and clearances to figure out how they can check the locations and private materials. Yeah. So they found out that this person, unknown number, has been using this third-party app. I forgot the name, but basically it just scrambles your VPN kind of thing, changes your number.
Yeah.
So then this person gets a warrant for this app, developer, to get that, IP address. And then they do a series of checks. And finally, they find one number which is connected. And then they go to the house to present who who they think it is. Now, before I tell you who it is, who do you think?
I would say the boyfriend.
Okay. And what would be your
the sports guy? Well, so here the thing is, I've heard of crimes like this before, in which he's harassing his girlfriend at the start to make her want him more, to get needier, clingier, also to give him some purpose to be the guy who doesn't quite work, or maybe he's just addicted to it, so he has to throw himself into it as well to remove suspicion. And then when he gets a new girlfriend, she starts receiving these similar messages too. But actually, I'm thinking of it less as a true crime and more as a story, like a mystery story.
Yeah, it does sound like a mystery story.
In which case, like, that would be the one you throw out all these other red herrings, and then you go back to.
There are a lot of red herrings,
Mr. Dependable.
But since this is a true story, we can use those red herrings as like a way to say that they were trying to be framed. Because they were like, it's like it's like most likely trying to imply that it could be this person. So, anyways, when they do find the cause, the person who it was the mother. It was the mum. It was her mum.
Okay, I didn't pick her because she was never mentioned in your story as a character.
Sorry, I
but that's all right.
But because, to be fair, in the documentary and the story, the mum is very low-key. She's behind.
Peripheral character.
She's also like supporting the daughter immensely. She's like, she's a really good mom, and she's like, we find out that she's so not only good with her daughter, but good with the boy and the mom. They have a great relationship, and like I told you, okay, let me just check if the camera's still rolling. Nola! Okay, I don't know where I was. The footage is
was
back.
the mother.
Okay, it was the mother. So, what happened was, the mother, not only was she doing this, she lied to her family that she had a job. She quit her job actually a year ago. So she was doing the cyber stalking, bullying full-time for a year. And now you'll be wondering, why would the mother do it?
Wow, psychological distress, lost her job. But
okay, not really. So basically what her answer was, she said, initially it wasn't her. So this is her answer. She said, I then later on I caught on and I started doing it. And why did you do it? It's because I wanted to find out who it was. And what I thought was if I kept messaging them, then she would figure out who it could be. But that doesn't make much sense. So later on, what the investigators and the criminal psychologists, what they found out was, what they theorized was, basically she did it because, a little backstory, the mother was an attention freak. So she would, when they interviewed her friends, they would say that she would be a person like, example, let's say I'm being filmed for an interview right now. I'm talking this is what happened. She would be the type of person that if that was happening, she would be over there on the side trying to like do a backflip. In order to get.
Yeah, we all know that kind of person.
You know what I'm saying? So she was that type of person. And she also had a upbringing that she wasn't really given that spotlight. So when she saw her daughter become this it girl in school, popular, everything that she never could have, maybe the jealousy came in. And she wanted to make her feel down. But another aspect which is even more complicated was when she would bully her daughter, she would come back to her mom for solace, like this is happening. So it's kind of like
it's reaffirming.
So she wanted to create a situation where I want to make my daughter feel like I can only be this.
Classic narcissism.
Narcissism. So crazy. And then also another thing was they also thought that she actually did want him because she kept harassing him. She wanted what her daughter had. She wanted her life. She wanted basically everything. And the term that they gave was, are you familiar with this thing called this disease or whatever mental illness called Munchausen's or something?
Yeah, Munchausen's by proxy.
Munchausen's. There's Munchausen's and there's Munchausen's by proxy. And hers is this very weird way of trying to it is a Munchausen's by proxy kind of thing, but try to make the daughter in so much abuse that she would come back and then she would be dependent on the daughter.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a classic case.
Yeah,
And
it's really tragic, actually.
yeah. And the things that she said to the daughter was like vile. You know, she said like, go kill yourself. You know, you don't deserve to live. And then when the investigators questioned like, why would you say that to your daughter? Like, I get, okay, above everything else, I get the whatever, you did it for whatever reason. But why would you say that to her? Like, and she said, because I wasn't really serious that she would do it. You know? I was just wanting to make her feel.
It's not really funny at all, actually.
Yeah. And then it was just this like, very peculiar case. So anyways, my 2 cents was like, when you get a man who's psychotic or he's like a serial killer or whatever, he usually, he's powered, his motivations are powered by lust or power, you know. Either I want to, you know, get all this, you know, sexual gratification from whatever aspect, you know, or I want to get into a position of power where I can like either like I can control the situation, I can harm you because I have the ability to, or I can ruin your life because I have the ability because I was pent up resentment or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So usually a man is powered by lust and power, but a woman is attention. That's kind of scary, you know. Because when you look back, okay, now I don't want to generalize everyone, but in like a stereotypical way, you know, women to be happy is to give her validation and attention, and a man is lust, you know, give him a couple of nudes or a happy meal, and maybe tell him he's been a good boy, you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of social conditioning that makes
like,
boys and girls behave in certain ways.
But I found it like very peculiar. Like, wow, like I get like some people we say we're attention hungry, but that particular case of woman, how much attention she really wanted it. And that's where I think the way we differentiate between a man and a woman. A man would murder someone to have a sexual gratification, whereas a woman would want everyone to just love her and be her to be the like the main character. So
definitely in the case of that story, yeah.
But yeah, Munchausen's by proxy. There's another story where one mother purposely made her daughter believe that she was sick with cancer in order that she...
Oh yeah, there's been quite a few cases like that over the years. Yeah, it's really sad, honestly. It's like, we can laugh and think, oh, what a horrible
such a white person illness, right?
Like,
you never see this in Asia. It's such a white person illness.
I don't know about that. But yeah, it is like maybe more of a first world kind of a thing.
But is it like a general thing for like a woman to seek?
So I think in a way, so there's also cliches about like bad Asian parents, right?
Yeah.
Like tiger mums and all that kind of stuff, right? And they are cliches, but there's an element of like social conditioning that goes in, and I think it's way overstated about like the East being collective and the West being individual. I think that's way overstated. Okay. But I do feel that what you're talking about might manifest more in a Western society compared to Eastern because of the idea of individualism. Right? And in a sense, you're adrift in the ocean, paddling your own way. But, you know, this is... To confirm this, you need to study it properly.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, if anyone has some stories, let us know in the comments. But interesting, right? Munchausen's. I didn't know. I would have never known about this thing called Munchausen's by proxy or whatever. It seems like such a big word, but it exists. So if anyone's out there who's really attention hungry, be careful, okay? It's psychotic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what counseling is for. But I mean, I read this article the other day. It was quite interesting about narcissism, and it's one of the most demonized mental health disorders. It's
so you're saying we should not... What's the word?
Well, narcissism is a real mental health disorder, right?
Oh, really?
And there are ways that people can cope with it. And we should actually, narcissists are very annoying people, right? And can be very dangerous people. I don't want to get into politics, but anyway. But the argument was we should actually address its concerns.
So it's a mental illness?
Yeah, it is a mental illness.
So how do you is it like by birth or you just develop it?
Oh, you develop it. Okay. I mean, sure, there are people whose natural tendencies are more narcissistic and it might not approach mental health, but I'm talking like dangerous levels of narcissism.
What would be the biggest difference between someone who's confident, arrogant, or a narcissist? Like what are the levels to it?
a narcissist wouldn't be able to cope with the idea of somebody else being the main character in their life story, right? They just can't cope with it at all. Because really it comes to massive insecurity. The reason people are narcissistic is because they deep down know they're far from the main character. So they reinforce, like always integrating themselves into every single story, always having a story that's better or more engaging than that, or always shifting conversation. Or never allowing a conversation to exist without them. There's lots of ways it can manifest. Or you could even become president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now here's one thing I've noticed. Like usually, like it is women these days. They usually, whenever they talk about the exes, the common thing is, "Oh, he was a narcissist." Couldn't take it. So why do you think that's the case?
I mean, people exaggerate some character traits as being narcissistic or megalomaniac, but that's just also our own coping mechanism of getting over our frustrations by saying, "Oh, that prick's a narcissist."
It wasn't your fault. It was you.
And that's fair enough too. Honestly, we all do that kind of stuff. But like when you think about genuine narcissism, then it's something that's difficult to control for the individual. And we should think about ways to.
Are narcissists sociopaths?
No.
Psychopaths?
No. Psychopath. So
you could be a psychopath and a narcissist at the same time.
You could be.
Oh shit, that's even scary.
Yeah.
And do you think you've encountered any in Bhutan?
Psychopaths, narcissists.
Psychopath, narcissists.
Yes, all of the above, but I'm not going into any.
Yeah, you don't get into any details, but like, let's have a fun game. What are some like giveaways you could say in this Bhutanese context community that you can tell? Oh, that guy could be beauty. What are some tendencies?
If I say any, it's going to give things away.
Is that obvious?
Or at least make people who know me or encounter me suspect I'm talking about it, and I might not be.
Then. I don't want to.
So I could say something like buying a really expensive fast car, and that's not a sign of narcissism. There's lots of reasons you could do that, right? Yeah. But
you just bought a car, right?
That's true. But somebody who's done that, who's known me, think, they're talking about me. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to bring up anyone in particular.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing which I've noticed. Narcissists, at least in my knowledge, is like they do not care about the consequences of their actions. But if someone does something which they like, if let's say I am alcoholic, okay? Yeah. I'm an alcoholic, and I love to drink, and I say I'm the best at drinking, whatever, I'm the best. When I drink and I make, let's say, a scene, it's not a problem. But when you drink and you make a scene, it's the biggest problem.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I noticed. Like, we did the same thing, but the fact that you did it, it's significantly much bigger problem than when I do it. So that's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
But that's like very hard to pinpoint. But like I think one easy way, like what you mentioned, is try to interject them into every story, become the main character of the story.
That's a big one, and that's not just here. I've definitely encountered this here for a few people. And actually, I'm not going to say, but in one person, I wouldn't care if they correctly identified themselves in this. But it's no one I work with.
Context.
But
disclaimer.
The one thing that I find really irritating is you tell me a story. Right. And it's a clever little story, or it's a scary story that happened to you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's nothing, though. What happened to me is, there's always, or like
one-upsmanship.
Yeah, exactly. Or I tell you about a way I taught a class that I thought was interesting and clever. And
that's nothing compared to the class.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. And it's like, it's really boorish behavior. Yeah. All you project of yourself is that you're an irritating prick.
You're also needy for attention.
Exactly.
Insecure.
And it's also a sign of someone who's not aiming to, say, be intelligent or thoughtful. They just are aiming to be clever, right? To be perceived as a clever person. And it comes from insecurity, unfortunately. And it is kind of sad. But it's really goddamn irritating.
But whenever I counter these things, like, because I also sometimes think like, wait, even though this person, you can clearly tell that they're trying to be the take the spotlight. Maybe you're victims of this yourselves. Sometimes you do want to you want to take the spotlight. So I always think, I kind of feel like I don't get irritated as much these days. I get like, sorry for you to like feel that way right now. I could tell a story, and if one person's this thing and no one's giving a shit, I'm content. But for that person must be like agonizing, you know.
Yeah.
Always constantly wanting to be the spotlight, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of painful. But anyways, look out for it. And I think we've about to drain our second battery. So thanks, Father Shawn.
You're welcome.
For some stories
My
which
son.
you share. This is the confession camp, and I look like I'm about to get lost in the woods. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed some of the many stories which you shared. If this is interesting, maybe Shawn can start his podcast, or maybe we can bring him back to share some more. But before we say goodbye, I think Father Shawn wants to plug something. So this is your time.
Thank you very much. So if you found this interesting, the stuff on culture, society, urban myths, folk legends, and you're thinking about what you might want to study in life, then I want to recommend anthropology at RTC. Or even if you want to consider studying, then consider RTC as an option.
He gets a commission.
But definitely anthropology is the best program there. But also we have the most qualified, not saying the other staff aren't qualified, but we have the highest number of PhDs in our program in the faculty. And it's a very wide-ranging degree. If you think culture is really interesting, society is really interesting, but you're not into the urban legends like me, we do archaeology, we do medical anthropology, biological anthropology. We do a mix of the humanities, the social sciences, and the hard sciences. So check us out. If you have any stories that you want to tell me, then I'd be interested in interviewing you, whoever you are, as long as somebody claimed the story was true.
And if you do have shamanistic abilities, proof.
Yes,
Father Shawn.
please do. But also I want to thank you, Sai. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's been good. All right, if you watched towards the end of the podcast because of this face, consider subscribing because of this face. We're still growing, and our subscriber count is right now good because most of the people who do watch are subscribed. But the small minority who is thinking on the fence, please subscribe, and maybe you can learn some knowledge. And next time you talk to your friends in a dinner party, be like, hey, by the way, narcissist is this because you learned it on this podcast. Okay? Think about it that way. All right, okay, look up and we can say hello to our deities, our podheads. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, and our podhead pro, Doti and Pema Samdrup. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right. And anything else? That's all about it.
Good night, and God go with you, I guess.
And happy Halloween.
And happy Halloween.
Yeah, I need to plug for the boys also. So the guys in there, they're a rap collective, the Bale 301. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they're a popular rap group.
Oh, cool.
They're performing tonight if you're in Pinseling. If you're watching this on Halloween, like right now, they are performing in Pelling Club. So check Norla and the Bale boys out if you're out going Halloween in Pinseling. If not, then maybe find me in the streets of Thimphu. I'm still thinking about my costume idea. So it'll not be this, it'll be significantly
Tall Black Riding Hood.
less cool. Yes, tall Black Riding Hood with wearing a white t-shirt because, yes. All right, that's the end of the podcast. Until the next episode, stay safe and goodbye. Okay, we just do a clap, okay? Just one single clap. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.